guys, I'm the Coaster Keat, and while my name consists of roller coasters and parakeets, if there was one more thing that I could manage to work in there in a clever way, it would be water polo. Water polo these days is a huge part of my life. It's something that I go to practice for 4 times a week, 2 hours each practice, so a total of 8 hours a week, meaning that it ties for the amount of time that I spend with D&D most weeks. But it is something that, nevertheless, I spend a lot of time in. And more interestingly is the fact that half of that practice is something that I decidedly do not enjoy whatsoever. And so today I wanted to explore why I play water polo, or more specifically, why I do the swimming that is required to play water polo. Now, I can't say that I do the swimming just because I want to play the sport, because there is something called intramural water polo, and so if I really wanted to kind of play water polo without all that swimming and training aspect, that would be definitely possible, but I choose not to. I also can't say it's for the friends because I not only have D&D, but again, the intramural water polo thing would open up those same avenues. It also doesn't make sense because whenever I do a new thing, it's usually for one of 3 reasons. It's because I enjoy doing that thing, it's because I'm good at doing that thing, or it's because I really want to explore that thing. This explains why I've done pretty much everything in my life. Why did I choose to go and learn Connect 4 in order to beat everyone? Because I was good at it. Why did I choose to go home and learn numbers and study for an AP test that I didn't really need to study for? Well, it was because I enjoyed learning. And then why would I go and play the viola in middle school? It's because it was a new thing to do. These 3 reasons just kind of encompass why I do pretty much everything in my life. And while water polo started out as the whole new thing excuse, it no longer is, because when we transitioned from high school to college, water polo was no longer a new thing. And the swimming portion of it was not something that I enjoyed or was good at. So, none of these 3 reasons covers why in the heck I would choose to go and be perpetually tortured for an hour on 4 days of the week. It just doesn't make any sense. There's the physical pain of going through the swimming, the inability to breathe, the struggling to go, the lack of improvement, which is the complete antithesis of the being good at thing that keeps me doing something. In fact, I can't get better at swimming for whatever reason. I just suck at swimming, and that's just a consistent thing, which leads me to the frustration that it causes, because if you go and you do something for hours and hours each week, you expect that by the end of those hours you will be just a little bit better at that thing than when you started. So if none of these things, and I mean none of these things, are in my favor to do swimming, why do I, every so often, choose to get in my swimsuit and dive in with the rest of the people to go swim 3,000 yards? Well, it's not because of the dietary thing, and I know that there's some people that would do go to the gym because they really want to be able to eat what they want, or they want the body that they envision for themselves, but for me it's not that, because that's never been the strongest motivating factor for me. It just doesn't have that potential. So then what? Why? Well, I'd have to say it has to come down to the humility aspect of the swimming, because throughout my life, and this is going to sound horrible, but I've never been bad at very many things. Whenever I tend to pick up a new thing, I always have a tendency to be good at it. Take the viola, for example. I had 0 right to be playing the viola at the middle school that I did, with a bunch of kids that started playing it way younger than I did, and I had just picked it up the very same year that I got to start playing in that orchestra. orchestra. I had zero right to be there, and yet I was. And I managed to work myself up to the highest possible position that a violist can have. And yes, it was the viola and not the violin head chair, but that's still head chair, and that's still extremely impressive. Not to mention the fact that in school I've always been very good at pretty much every subject except spelling, which thank goodness is not a subject. But like math, I was great. Science, I was great. Like English, I was great, as long as you didn't ask me to spell too many things. I was just very, very good at what I did. Whenever I chose to play a game, I would choose to get good at it. I didn't like playing games that I wasn't good at. Like, for instance, there were a few video games that I had friends that were very, very, very good at them, and I just chose not to play those games against them, like competitive Pokemon battling. I knew a lot of people that were great at it, and so because of that, I just completely lost interest in the whole thing because I knew I wasn't going to be as good as them. So whenever I was good at something, I would continue doing it, and those few instances where I wasn't good at something, that's when I would drop it. So why isn't that true for swimming? Well, it's something about the determination and, as I said, the humility aspect. The fact that I'm going to get in, I'm going to suffer, and I'm going to get a reward at the end. The fact that I have coaches there that see what I'm doing and see how hard I'm working, and despite the fact that I'm not getting any better, they still say, "Great practice, Rachel," or "Good job, Rachel," and it makes me feel good because for once in my sorry life, I'm not good at something. But yet I'm still rewarded for doing that thing, and that feeling is just, it feels so much more earned, to me anyway. When I know I'm good at something, it's so easy to see every single flaw that I do when I'm doing that thing. Like, for instance, when I make these videos and when I edit, every single time that I look at the screen for the camera instead of the actual camera, I'll like cringe a little bit and I'll be like, oh, why did I do that? Or whenever I'm writing a paper or doing a speech, I always look back and be like, oh, there was a moment there where I misspelled that word, or that was a comma splice, I could have done that better. Or when I'm presenting, like I paused way too long, or there was just so much awkward time. But when I'm swimming, I don't have that self-judgment as much because I'm just not good enough to judge myself to that level. And yes, my inner monologue says, "You're slow. You're really slow. Wow, you're garbage at swimming." Like pretty much the entire time that I'm swimming, there's that little inner monologue. But at the same time, I feel like when I finish, when I get done with the set and the coaches say like, "Good job," it genuinely feels like I did a good job. With all of these other things, if someone says "good job," I don't feel like I did a good job because I know all the flaws that were involved. Like, I know that I'm slow with swimming, but I still know that I tried my best and that I deserve that good job. So at the end of the day, I think what keeps me swimming is pride, essentially. The fact that when I go in there and I work as hard as I can and I break through the mental barrier that inevitably comes up about 200 yards into our 3,000-yard swim set. By the way, for anyone that's wondering, one lap, like there to there, is a 25 meter, and going back is a 50 meter, so you do the math on how many laps that is. But anyways, 200 in to my 3,000-yard swim set, I will always have this mental barrier that comes down that says, if you want, you could just hop out right now, you could go to the bathroom, you could throw up, you could pretend to throw up, you could pretend to be ill, you could sit outside, you could just watch the swimming and then join back in for the water polo. And then I'll keep going and I'll push through it. And then when we start our main set, probably 1,000 to 1,200 yards in, there it comes again. It says, if you just hyperventilate, if you just wheeze, if you just sit on the wall breathing, if you just climb out and you lie down just breathing as hard as you can, then no one's going to blame you. No one's going to say, Rachel, she's so lazy. No one's going to do that. Everyone will be okay with it. They'll be concerned over your well-being, and you'll be able to skip the swim set. And every single day that comes into my mind, at least twice a practice whenever I'm swimming. And every time, so far anyways, I've been able to push through it. I've been able to push through that feeling of just not wanting to do something. I've been able to push through that feeling of just wanting to do anything to get out. And I'm genuinely proud of it. Proud enough, apparently, that I'm willing to tell you guys all my secrets so that now if you ever see me like getting out during a swim practice, you know to call BS. I'm proud of it. And I honestly hope that if you're someone that's like me, and maybe you're overcritical of yourself, or maybe you just find it hard to find something to be proud in for one reason or another, my hope for you is that you can find your version of swimming. Something that you can perhaps suffer through, something that is very difficult for you, something that requires all of your determination to keep doing, all of your endurance, all of your mental strength, but something that you can get through. Because honestly, the emotional high that comes after finally completing the first half of practice and finally being done with all that swimming, there's just nothing that compares to it in the world. So I'll never say that I enjoy swimming, but I will say that I enjoy when the swimming's finally over. Anyways, I've been the Coaster Keat, and I hope that you all soar high and enjoy your ride of life. Bye!